welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Big honor to be here. Big honor.
Well, you deserve the spot, my friend. You really do. So I typically ask the new guests to give us a backstory. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into growing, and where how you ended up here.
Well, it all started in 2020, pretty much. That's when we started growing. That's when I actually put a plant in the ground out here, and happened to be just a bag seed that ended up beside the fish pond. We have a koi pond. So I actually live on my grandparents' old property. The property's been in the family for probably going on over 100 years now. It was my great grandfather, then my grandfather, and now I'm on it. So there's been a fish pond, a koi pond out here for 24 years. And I happened to drop a bag seed down there, and it was in a pot, but it was next to the pond. And it just happened. I just piled soil up around it and watched it grow, watched the roots grow into the pond. And, it was quite eye-opening. And then COVID hit and everything changed. For me, I own a delivery company. So for me, the roads are wide open. It was free. I was essential employee. So unlike you had a different story, but I was on the road constantly. That was when my business took off. And I had a lot of time to just basically do research on YouTube. And that's when I found Future Cannabis Project. And that's when I found, you guys, basically. You and Brian had a show, Living Soil Conversations. It was like 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was. Now, and I just happened to come across it, and I just like the concept of the living soil aspect of it. I had already tried different aspects of growing back this time. This was like 2000. This was 21, 22, I think it was. Maybe you did that show, 21, 22, I guess. I don't know, time flies right now, so it's kind of crazy. It's been 5 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years. I feel like I've been through college, I put myself through YouTube University, basically. And it was been all through, you and Marco. Marco is growing. That show really opened my eyes. He was on this show not too long ago, a couple months ago. You had him back on, and he's done tremendous things since the first time you talked to him. And then they had that show. Him and Brian had the Brian and Marco show, and that was very interesting, very eye opening. And that's when I first learned about his grow based on your horizontal soil system. Well, let me back up, because I actually saw I saw you do it, and Marco actually said something on the show not too long ago. When the last time he was on, he said he saw that same video. That same video, you in the backyard with Peter and this other guy. I watched that same. I'm sitting there going, yes, that's the video. Oh, that's what changed everything for me. Like I had like 20, 30-gallon bags. Okay. And this is what you guys had me doing. I had 20 bags and 20 bags of different horizontal soil setups. Like every single one of them were set up different. So I could see the difference. And I grew in all different size pots, 10, 20, 30. I ended up in the 30-gallon, and then I ended up in the 4x4. So by the time I got to the 4x4, I'd set up this horizontal soil system that I had in this 4x4 over here in your horizontal soil that I thought was best. And I was using sand, silt, and clay from the reservoir that I live on here. So there's a freshwater reservoir here on the property down at the bottom of the hill here. And it feeds Newport News, fresh water, basically. They pump fresh water from the reservoir to Newport News, which is about 30 miles from here. And so there's creeks running into this reservoir. Along my property, there's 2 separate ones that are coming in from underground. So when you started talking about sand, silt, and clay and organic matter, I was like, I went down to and then one thing you said was, if you ever get it out of a creek, take it and lay it out on a surface and let the sun dry it out. And a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, boom, that's it. That's the difference right there. I can bring a couple buckets up, lay it out on the asphalt here on my driveway, and let the sun basically cook it. And I let it cook for 2 months, like all summer long, 90, 100 degrees. It was, it was a totally different color than what it was when I brought it up. Totally different smell. There was actually not a whole lot to it, really. It just felt like sand and silt and not a whole lot of clay, but the clay is so small you can't really see it. But the organic matter was still in it. So that's where everything changed. That's where I was like, I can use that as the layer that goes on top of the rock base for the reservoir, and let the soil sit on top of that sand, silt, and clay that's already, been cooked, basically composted, the bad stuff out of it, and leave the organic matter in it for the food and the biology. And lo and behold, that's what I did. And the plants, just once the roots get to that layer, I noticed they just took off. And I tested this in a little tray, in a little seedling tray, and I filled the whole tray with the same sand, silt, and clay and organic matter. And I cut the bottom of the pot out, and I set the plant on top with the soil, and just put the seed in the plant, and the plant grew straight down through and matted the tray, like with roots. I mean, thick white roots just matted it. And it's on video. Like, I've got it on video. I think it's day 57, 58. This is why I number my days on my Instagram, so I can go back and look. So it's day 57, 58. You can go back and look where the roots just matted the tray, where that sand, silt, and clay was. And I was like, oh my God, another light bulb went off in my head. Like, that's what Leighton was talking about. That's the sand, silt, and clay that Leighton's been talking about. I was like, I'm sitting on a fucking gold mine here. I'm surrounded by this stuff. That's all my property is sand, silt, and clay and organic matter. So of course I go start, hunting a little bit, fill up a 5-gallon bucket, bring it up, throw that on the thing, lay that nice little layer. I mean, a nice thick layer, maybe 2-3 inch thick layer across those rocks, across that pea gravel in that horizontal soil. And that's where that's the E horizon, I believe it is, or
A horizon. You're
A
saying
horizon. A. Okay, sorry, yeah, I get them confused.
That's all right, all good.
It was a whole nother level, once the roots got to that point. And you just saw a growth pattern. It was just totally different. And I was like, that's the key to that system, is giving that layer, like not just sand, but the silt, clay, the organic matter, leaving all that in there, but just letting it cook outside on the asphalt until it changes color. It looks like almost like desert sand almost. It's a different color, different smell. Everything about it's different, But when you get it wet, it holds a tremendous amount of water. I mean, you can just sit there and hold a water hose on it in a bucket, and it just sucks it up, sucks it up, sucks it up, sucks it up. I'm like, this is what it's doing underground too. This is what it's just holding water. And so, yeah, listening to you got me to this point.
So were you a grower before? Like, did you do vegetables or orchards or anything? Or
yeah, my grandfather. I grew up here on the property. Like I said, my grandfather had a farm. We had Christmas trees, peach trees, apple trees. Big tomato farmer here in the county. He was at all the farmers market. Me and him used to go to the farm. We had a little produce stand here, actually, up here by the store. So that's what I grew up doing. I grew up here on the summers, coming to my granddad's, picking tomatoes, sitting here in the garage, wiping and cleaning and putting in boxes, wiping and cleaning, putting in boxes. That was basically, digging potatoes, squash, on a small scale though. Not, it's 6 acres here, so we're not, big time. So he may have farmed out of those 6 acres. He farmed pretty much all 6 with the produce tree. I mean, with the fruit trees. Everything had something on it with Christmas trees, fruit trees, tomatoes. Pretty much everything had some type of growth on it. So, that's where I kind of grew up. Yeah.
So you had some great experiences as a young lad. I'm sure there wasn't using a tremendous amount of fertilizers back then either, because that was really before the green revolution, so to say.
Oh, so, it was all it was conventional farming. I mean, my granddad, he liked to spray. He had to spray these fruit trees. That's the only thing he knew to do. He was spraying poison on these trees. So I grew up around poison, really. In here, he would put a mask on and just sit in here and mix stuff. When you walked into the garage, at the end of his days, when you walked into this garage that I'm in now, it smelled like the old fumigated. I mean, it just smelled like old spray.
Really?
But some of this stuff was still in the old jar. Oh yeah, it was. That's how he had to manage the bugs. Even today, I'm just now getting a peach tree up and going. It's taken me 5 years to get a peach tree to actually get a peach on it, because every year it just gets destroyed by this fungus. The fungus that comes. Get the name of it. It starts with an S.
It's not. It's spotted.
Get these black spots all the spot all the leaves.
Brown rot. There's a few different versions of that.
Yeah, it's bad around here because I live on the water, so I'm up on top of a hill and the water's down at the bottom. So all the wind just constantly is blowing up on this hillside. So it's great.
Where is here? Where do you live?
I'm in Virginia, so I'm in the Tidewater area. So I'm in James City County, close to Williamsburg, Jamestown.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. I'm
so you're
20 minutes from there.
Yeah. So you're a very humid environment.
Yes. Yeah.
So
very humid.
There are some tricks that you can do for those that pest pressure. We'll talk about that if we've got time more toward the end, because I'm still really fascinated with what you've done here, and I really want to start to go down the rabbit hole. I mean, I saw on your post today you talked about getting rid of the killer flies. Those flies were the ones that circle around like this all the time, or were they more like a house fly?
Housefly, and now I'm kind of regretting. I'm kind of regretting getting rid of them now. Well, I still have a couple. They were big. I mean, these things are like thumbnail size flies, big ones. And as soon as I started shooting, I killed maybe 4 or 5 of them. I hung a couple of these little traps off to the side over here in the corners to see how many, because they were flying everywhere in the room. And most of my beneficials only. Pretty much, if they fly up around the pond, around this area, but they don't fly over in the corner, of the room, But these flies were. So I hung a sticky trap up, and I caught a few of them in the sticky traps. But now that I got rid of them, I noticed I got a little bit of spider mite damage on a couple of my plants. And I'm thinking that those were the ones that my flies were actually eating the spider mites. Even though they were crapping all over the place, they were still beneficial. They weren't hurting my cannabis. Now that I got rid of the fly, but I do see a couple of other house flies flying around in here now that are on my plant, and they're picking on the leaf. They're not doing anything, but they look like they're cleaning the leaf, almost like picking the spider mite or whatever it is there that's causing that pressure. Yeah, but the only problem with the fly is that they crap. It's so big. it leaves a spot on the leaf as well. So I got to go in behind it to kind of clean the crap off.
Interesting. In many ways, it could have been actually fertilizing, like through foliage. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can flip this thing around and we can walk around it and I can show you.
Yeah. Let's do a tour, man. Let's do a tour. Love to.
Whoops. Let me see. Let me go to my settings here.
Now, do you plug that in? Because this platform does chew batteries, so just keep an eye on your battery.
Yeah. I'm all right.
I can also bring up the IG stuff as well.
Yeah, you could definitely pick up pictures, Ken, if you want, and pop in and out.
All right, I think I can zoom in and out with this.
That's just beautiful. Just really beautiful work.
Oh, there's a fish right there. Barely see him. He's a big goldfish. There he goes. Yeah. There's the turtle. That's Cooter.
What's up, Cooter?
And Scooter is he's camera shy. But there's a shrimp. Rarely see a shrimp. That's a cherry shrimp.
Yep. And a couple fish too.
Yeah, we got some bullhead minnows that I got for like almost free from the bait and tackle shop. And I caught one of them, and he's still alive. I caught a little little silver little minnow from down in the reservoir. I caught in the minnow trap. Little silver shiners, I believe they're called. He's still alive. Everything I only lost a couple of minnows that I brought in from the bait and tackle shop. But other than that, it's been smooth sailing with this. I believe it's usually because of the lab that I'm using and the EM1. So I started using a little bit of EM1, and that's made a world of difference for the string algae. I've noticed a big difference in how the string algae kind of clumps up and changes colors. It goes from like I don't know, kind of this color right here, it'll get really lime green when the EM gets to it, and it'll clump it up. And when it clumps it up, I can just come in and pick it out a whole lot easier after it's clumped itself up.
Yeah,
but for the most,
great product.
Yeah. I think if you use it correctly, it's definitely a game changer when it comes to something like this, for sure. Because it's really difficult to. Well, let me start from the beginning, Leighton, because this is how you really helped me out with this, and you helped me. And also I got to call out Brian from Rubber Ducky Isopods. You guys, the way you spoke. I think my camera's dirty. Hold on. The way you guys spoke to people really helped me and inspired me to do something like this. So that was the big thing. Because during COVID, everybody was having issues. So, I had family issues at the time. We had a big time issues around here with family that I won't go into, but it was a difficult time. So let's say, to say the least, just like you and with with everything else in your life, most people have things going on that push them towards things, I guess, And I was fortunate enough to come across you guys, and you guys changed my life for sure.
That's again, seeing this is just so inspirational, and I'm sure other people that are watching this or will watch it in the future will get again comfortable in being creative. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
You did. Cemented in all this rock and layered in the gravel, and then layered in the soils, and then built a little oasis.
Yeah, well, this is after I saw Marco's grow and how he was using that living water, I was like, and then listening to you, and I had all that experience with the see, this is This is the 4x4. Okay, so this will give you an idea of the difference in size. Let me get over here so you can see. So that's the 4x4 I was working with, and this is what I ended up with.
Love it, man. Love it.
So this is very difficult, very, very difficult to do in a living in a horizontal soil system. And I think the reason being is because of this air pocket down here. I think this needs to be covered. I think if this plastic is all the way wrapped around it and it's holding that moisture, because I can't build a reservoir down here. When too much water gets down here, it just all leaks out.
Yep. And that was one of the things that I talked about, was how important that liner is, especially in those tents, because there's no room between the bed and the tent, and so it's a challenge to be able to put that pan in there so that you can keep the reservoir full. So I could see why that you struggled with that.
Yeah, it was difficult. So that's when I came up after seeing Marco's living system and how he was converting the water. He was just draining the water down to the corner. And basically he had his help on a plane, you know, and all the water he was putting in was going down and going to the corner, and he was pumping it back up, going into a reservoir, and it was being cleaned through all the biology, and then he was pumping it back around into his bed, and it's coming back around. I was like, light bulb moment, you know. I was just like, holy shit. I was like, these plants, and then he won like best freaking weed in the country that are in DC, and I'm like, okay, here we go. These, you know, Marco lives like 40 minutes from me, and I happened to see that he put that light, this light right here, actually, this light changed everything for me, because it put me in touch with Marco, because he put that on Instagram and he had it for sale. And as soon as it came up, I had him on my favorites. So as soon as it came up, I was like, bing. I gave him a shout, and I was like, yep, let me go meet him. I went and picked up the light. I met him. Then I met him again at a place that he was speaking at. So I was seeking him out, you know, and he knew, you know, that I was, you know, interested in talking with him and getting to know him for sure. And yeah, that's, you know, he said one time on one of his shows, he was like, you know, if you're smart, you need to get on my coattails and ride my coattails or something like that, to that extent. He was like, and I was like, okay. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So I followed him on Instagram. I followed him everywhere, basically. Wherever he was speaking, I was going, you know. If it was close enough for me to go, I was going.
Yeah, he's a big inspirational guy, and the work that he's doing is, you know, spot on, and he loves to experiment and try, and you know, that's the key to everything. That's the key to learning.
Yeah, exactly. So what this is basically a sandbox. So I'll get down here on a level. So this is the sandbox here, and that's how much sand, silt, clay, and pea gravel's in here. Okay, that's pretty much what I did. I brought in a whole lot of sand, silt, clay, and pea gravel. So the pea gravel brings it all the way up to that level where I brought in more of a little bit of clay. I have really good kind of a tan clay around here, and I have some red clay. I have different kinds of clay around here. So I put a layer of the sand. Yeah, I'll show you. You can actually see it. You can see it under the pond here. So that right there, that's how much sand, silt, and clay is in there. So I dug a hole right here. You can see the bottom.
Yep.
Well, this is the real pit right here. So right now is a good time for me to show you, because there's water in there right now where I haven't had water. So it's a great indication. So I don't know if you can see that shine, but that shine is water. And what's happening is that since I don't have plants in here right now that are huge, sucking up all that water, I'm getting that extra release down into the sand, silt, and clay, and the extra is filtering into this hole here. When I first started this, it took me 7 times, 7 different times, and each time I thought I had a leak. Like I was filling this hole up, Leighton. I mean, I was shot back in the water out, you know. I was like, shit. I was like, that's just way too much water. I was like, what in the world is going on? I was like, you know, I thought I had everything lined out. I had the sand, silt, and clay and organic matter in the creek. Okay. So I had the same sand, silt, and clay in the creek that I have in the fish pond. So everything connects, you know. So I kept getting this tremendous amount of water coming into the hole. And every time I turned on the fish on the pump, it would flow down nicely. It was doing just like what it's doing now, but I was just flooding the hole. And I couldn't figure it out. I just kept racking my brain. I drained everything. Like I literally took everything came out. I sucked all the water out, took everything out. I resealed the pond with pond shield. Like I don't know, there's probably 6 or 7 coats of it on the pond itself because I thought I had a leak. And then I came back up here and I resealed all the creek with pond shield all the way around. And then my idea was I was going to drill holes to release some water. But then I got to thinking, I was like, how am I going to regulate the water? It's impossible to regulate. If I drill holes, the hole's just going to clog up. And, you know, how am I going to know? Or how am I going to regulate anything? So that was the big challenge with all this, was regulating the water. Like, how can I regulate water? Because that's what it was all about. Like, that was my biggest obstacle, was how do I regulate the amount of water that is being drawn into the beds? So I kept playing with the sand, silt, and clay and organic matter. And come to find out, I just had a brainiac moment, I guess. One day I was sitting down at the creek and I noticed in the center of the creek was cleaner than the edges of the creek. You know, where the water was running was pushing all the organic matter on down the creek, you know, so there wasn't as much organic matter in the center of the creek as there was on the edge. So I guess it was just a light bulb moment. I was like, you know, I bet you that's my problem. I'm wicking way too much water coming up over the side walls here. So I had sand, silt, and clay and organic matter. So this is the rock. This is the creek wall. If you go in my story, you can see me build this. This is the top of the wall. So what I had the sand, silt, and clay just piled up all the way up over here. Then I had laid the moss. So I have moss just set right on top of that sand, silt, and clay. So that moss is holding the sand, silt, and clay in place. While it's also, you can see that I saw the other day, this little mound of shit right here. See that? That was a millipede. It was a millipede shit. Well, it's digging around, and what this is doing is it's dropping that organic matter along the edges of the creek. And it's doing exactly what I want it to do, because over time, this is going to fill those gaps in between that pea gravel and give that water more wicking action. But I have to be careful because it can wick a tremendous amount more water than I thought. Like, so I had to come in and I had all of this covered. So I had everything was covered in sand, silt, clay, and moss at one time. And I was turning it on and I was getting a tremendous amount of water over in my hole. And I was like, okay, well, let me just remove some of this stuff and see what happens. So I started moving. I removed all this, left some of this. You can see the fern growing up out of the moss. So, but you can see that this used to be all moss, but the millipedes have just destroyed it all the way around and dropped there. You can see how their droppings are just going down into the pond. Now this stays super wet and moist, but it also wicks all the way up underneath the rock, all the way into the soil, because I have a layer of clean sand, silt, and clay organic matter that I cooked out on the asphalt for a couple months. And I laid a layer about that thick on top of the soil. And then I put my mulch on top of that. So, and now I'm not watering anything. So I don't have to water, but what's happening is that the water is just wicking, it's wicking in, and it's wicking into that sand, and it's taking the water all the way to the rock wall. And it's allowing moisture to be wicked all the way up, all the way up to the rock wall, all the way around. So wherever I stick a probe, it's water.
Nice.
Doesn't matter. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. It just wicks it completely all the way up the side wall. Everything stays constantly moist all the time. And I don't have to do anything. The trick was, and here was the big trick, Leighton, it was still wicking too much water after I pulled all this off. It was still in these certain pockets. I mean, it was just wicking a tremendous amount of water. And what was going on is that I had not cleaned the center of the creek. So I had way too much organic matter in the center of the creek, and it was just wicking a tremendous amount of water. So what I did was I shut it all down again, and I shot backed all the sand, silt, clay, and pea gravel out. I shot backed it all back out, put it in my wheelbarrow outside with the pea gravel. So when I hit it with a water hose, the pea gravel separated the sand, silt, and clay enough to where it released the organic matter up to the top. So I could I was like gold panning my wheelbarrow, kind of getting that organic matter up to the top of the wheelbarrow to where I could just pour it out onto a tarp. And I'd have pure organic matter that I just kind of filtered out of, or gold pan. I'd say I was gold panning it out of the wheelbarrow. And then I brought that pure sand and silt back in and just put that in the center. And then I took the organic matter and I just sprinkled it along the edges where I needed it. And I realized real fast that was my regulator. Like the organic matter was what I could regulate the moisture with. Wherever I put the organic matter, it was where it was wicking. So now I could regulate my water simply by just sprinkling organic matter where I wanted it to wick. And instead of it wicking all up in once, it was just wicking up in one or two spots where I wanted it to. And then once it got into this sand silt layer, it spread out on its own. So I didn't have to do anything but regulate how much organic matter I had to put into the sand, silt, and clay in order for it to wick. Because once you add the organic matter, man, it wicks like crazy. I mean, like when you were talking about wicking water, I was like, okay. And then I put some in a bucket and I was like, yeah, it fills up. But then I put it in here and then I actually got to see how much it actually wicked. And like how much was it? It was pumping gallons. And what it was doing, it was just going over the rock wall. It was being wicked up over the wall, running straight down the wall. Right into the reservoir, which this whole thing is put on a slant. So the whole thing slants down to my hole. You know,
Gotcha.
so all the excess water is going to end up over in that corner over there. So I had to figure out a way to get water up here. So how did I get water from the creek to wick all the way up here? And the answer was the organic matter. It was that simple. All I had to do was run a beeline of that organic matter over this, but not so much on the creek edge, just in certain places on the creek edge. And that allowed me to regulate how much water was being wicked. And that's the secret. That was it. I mean, being able to get that organic matter out of the sand, silt, and clay. So basically just mining it out of my wheelbarrow. And then realizing that in a natural creek system, the center of the creek flushes all that organic matter down the creek and ends up in wherever it's going, which is my pond. which, is a good thing in certain situations, I guess, but I've already got organic matter in my pond. So what this is doing is just, I don't know, it's on its own now. Like I'm just a steward now. To be honest,
Well,
this is a pile of algae. This is a pile of algae. And you can see the snails, the mites.
yep.
If I can hold the camera still, look at the mites.
Yeah, it's the living system.
Yeah.
It's a micro.
Now I can take this. I can take this and pick it up and put it in my IMO bag over there, and this will be gone in a week. Like if I put it over there, it's just straight food. Everything likes. That's another thing. Everything likes algae. Yeah, everything likes it. Like I can release that into the pond, it'll be gone instantly. Like the fish will just eat it up. And that's what I do. I just go along and I just act like a hern. Because around here we got these big cranes, big herns, the blue crane, and they'll I'll see them going around. And so that's what I do. I just go around and release some of that into the pond. And I got these agates.
Beautiful. The fact that the water is so clean is a real indicator that you have.
Guy from Mass Creation. Y'all were talking. I was watching a Living Soil Conversations today. Actually, I watched the one. Excuse me, where you were at Community Barn. Up in Maine, I believe.
Yeah, Dennis and his crew.
Those guys are awesome. They had the kids out there, and they had the super compost, and they were talking about crystals and smashing crystals.
Yep.
I'm thinking about taking this and smashing it with a hammer. My wife would kill me. Probably come running if she's watching right now. She's like, "Don't you go smashing?"
Well, hey, when you're out walking,
the plants.
I was going to say, when you're walking the reservoir, I said, when you're walking the reservoir, just look for rocks that call out to you, because they'll talk to you. They'll tell you, "Hey, pick me, pick me." And you pick it up, smash it, and lay it in that creek or in the pond, whatever. And yeah, you're going to release all kinds of amazing things. I mean, you ever watch Dragon Medicine? You ever heard of these guys?
Dragon. Yeah, I'm friends with them. Yeah.
All right, yeah. There you go.
Absolutely. I'm losing you.
You still there?
Can you hear me? Yep. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, I got a bad storm coming through. Got a storm coming through here. But yeah, it's definitely a crazy ride. Like, cause it's cool because I can see now that I know what I'm looking for, and I know I don't have a leak. I know that what's actually going on and what's taking place. Now the fun, because this thing's only been running for, this is 120 days, of actually the creek being running. So it's brand new. So there's still a lot of learning. There's still a lot of learning curve. I haven't even gone into a summer yet right now. So this whole thing started in the winter around here. So we're just getting ready to hit, going to start hitting 90-degree days outside. So we'll see how I have to adjust everything when it gets super hot outside, super humid outside. We'll see how everything. I still have a dehue that's dumping fresh water. So the dehue is hooked right up to the top and just drips fresh water. And I do check for heavy metals, just because people go crazy if you don't check your dehue water. But yeah, I do check for heavy metals. You can easily check with one of these tests. Just drinking it with the test. This is how I test. Test everything. pH, alkalinity, zinc, test everything. So yeah, it's
a fantastic tool.
Yeah, it is. But then, it's just all about making carbon, right?
Mm-hmm. Setting roots.
You gotta You got these big leaves there. This is all this. I didn't plant any of this. All this is natural. This all came in just from the moss and the sand, silt, and clay. So the layer of sand, silt, and clay has a lot of life in it.
Yeah, it does. And again, we call them
The only
bankers.
thing, this is dill. I planted some dill. That's one thing I did plant, but yeah, all this stuff I call it elephant ears. Yeah,
Well, it's really
I
going to
don't
be
even know the
fun.
name of half of it. But
It's really going to be fun to watch this mature over the next few years, because I tend to believe that this is just going to get better and better and better as time goes by. You're going to have all these different little microclimates. You're going to get more diversity, with the biology and the insects, and eventually it's going to start humming.
it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, it's going to get crazy, dude. It's just going to hum along. Great work.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. That's for sure.
Great work.
Thank you, sir. It means a lot. For sure, I appreciate that.
Well, believe me, it's my pleasure. So are you going to pull the cannabis plants, the little ones, out and plant them outside, or are you going to just let it grow in?
Yeah, these are staying in. So these stay in. I can easily just cut the pot off and pull the pot. There's no bottoms to it. These are going outside. The ones that are just sitting on top. I'll be taking those outside. But this one's probably not going to make it. So only the strong survive. I told myself, like, the genetics that make it in this system right now, that it's so new, that's why I don't really want to reveal genetics until I get them, decent size and where I know I can, take care of them a little better and know that they're going to make it through the whole, because, when they're seedlings, they're tough in here. If they can make it through this system as a baby infant, then they can pretty much make it through anything. So, like I said, I planted a few, and like some of them end up like this. They just don't do anything. And then some of them end up like this. Same, I can't, it's just the way it is.
Was it a seed pack?
That's why we plant. That's why that one, yeah, that's a seed pack. Those are actually from India, I believe. Those are from India, from land raised. Those are land raised seeds. And these are also the same genetics.
Gotcha.
So I planted 20 of them, and I got 2 that were really good. The rest of them just fizzled away. But the 2 that make it, the 2 that make it are going to be bad.
Yeah, it's pretty typical. You get genetic drift, and you probably don't know whether it was like an F1 or maybe an F3. So you're always going to have some variation. That's what makes cannabis.
And
so
these,
fun.
yeah, it is. These here are all from the same. These here are from all the same breeder. I'll tell you that. So I'm not ready to release the name of the breeder yet, but they look really good. Everything I popped from them came up. Everything looks about the same height. Everything looks healthy. And then certain, you can definitely tell in the genetics. So, it's definitely a thing for sure. I'm new to cannabis, like cannabis growing. So, like the whole, I'm not new to smoking it. I'm new to growing it. That's so.
Well,
I have since for 5 years, I really put myself to the test, though. I'll tell you that. I spent a lot of money. I spent my share of. I put myself through college, and it costs money to put yourself through college.
Oh yeah. Tell me about
it. I failed quite a few times,
but
that was the fun part. That's how I got this.
Right. Don't call it a fail. It's a learning opportunity.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a learning opportunity. That's right. If I
All right.
hadn't failed all those times, I would be right here.
Well, and more importantly, the fact that you kept pushing is a great indication of the value of those lessons, because a lot of people quit. You know, they get frustrated and give up, and you didn't. You just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So now you get your reward. Now you get the benefit of having this, you know, in your garage that you can go visit anytime you want. And again, it's just going to get better and better and better as the system evolves and moves into a more mature system.
You see that right there?
Is that a little snail?
See that sack of eggs? Those are mystery snail eggs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They like to put their sack of eggs about 2 to 3 inches above the water line, and they put it right here where the water splashes, so they need moisture. So this is where the turtles can't get to them. So they're smart enough to put their egg sac 2 to 3 inches above the water line, but still get that moisture. See that water line moisture?
Yep, working
They
right
put
up.
it right on that line.
And
they
so
take about
what was that sack? Because you kind of broke up.
mystery snail eggs.
Oh, mystery snail. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Green mystery snail eggs. Yeah, the whole thing is crazy. Every day is crazy.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. So let's talk about, like, what is your, like, temperature? How are you regulating, you know, from the winter to summer? Or do you have heating and cooling, or just the dehumidifier?
Got the mini split right there. So the mini split's what's so we got the mini split that's doing the controls. That's pretty much keeping me at 79 degrees. This is just one. I got it at 79, 62%.
Nice.
But then we also have the pulse meter that we got sent to us. Flies shit all over it. Yeah, look at that fly. Look at the size of that. That's fly shit. That's how big them flies were.
You know, you probably ought to take a picture of them and try to identify them, because that doesn't seem like a normal housefly to me.
Yeah, I think they were. Marco said something, but I should have written it down. Started with a T. I'm not a scientist, so I have really limited vocabulary when it comes to mentioning scientific terms and bug names. Like I like listening to Matt Gates, but he blows my mind. Like I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah, because that clearly is not like a regular old housefly, because regular old houseflies are not predatory. They live on anaerobic stuff, and they, you know, lay eggs and move on, but they don't, like, eat living things.
Yeah, well, these things were pretty big. Oh, I think I had one. Well, no, I think it got 8. Yeah, I'm gone. There was one dead one over there in the corner, but gone now.
Well, somebody got it. So how long did this take?
Got it.
How long did it take you to build?
10 months. Took 10 months to build, and then about another month to figure out. So yeah, it took about 11 months to get it up and going. I started on Instagram December 1st of 23. So basically January 24. And here we are, January of 25. That's pretty much when I started this thing up. And then it took January 17th, 8/20, somewhere around in there. So it's been running for, you know, a couple months continuously. Like I haven't shut it down.
Yep.
So hopefully I won't have to shut it down unless it's, you know, we got a generator and everything, but I got an extra pump. I got extra everything. So except for my life. lights went out today. I'm disappointed. I came home, and the one time I need them to work, they don't work.
Go
And the
figure.
turtles are disappointed. Yes, the turtles are disappointed too.
How many turtles do you have? 2?
2, yeah.
Were
2
those
turtles. I got 5 shrimp, a shit ton of snails. The snails are what's been cleaning up here at the top. And I'll show you. Look at all these snails.
wow?
All these little black things are snails. And we clean all the algae out of that. And continue to clean the algae all the way around. Yeah, they're not a nuisance yet, but I got some assassin snails. I put 5 assassin snails in there to kind of combat those.
You're way ahead of
And
me.
I
Dude.
haven't seen. Oh well, actually, you know what? There's one right there. There's an assassin snail right there.
Very cool.
See him?
Yeah, that was really smart to get at it, because if you have one thing overrun, you get out of balance, and then that'll cause problems. Whereas if you just work with the system
Yeah.
and provide the prey predator ratio that's necessary, it'll fall into balance. And again, that's what an ecosystem does.
Exactly. And this is yeah, man. This is all you, bub. You and Marco. This is
give
how this
yourself-
came up, man. This is your. I mean, I'm giving myself some credit, Leighton, but let me tell you, if it wasn't for you, and if it wasn't for the horizontal soil system and Marco pointing me down that, and Brian, I mean, you 3, this is what you get. This is all those years of hard work you put in, all those talks. This is I think pretty close to what you guys indoors anyway, like indoors. Like I'm pretty sure it can be done pretty easily outdoors, but indoors is a whole nother ball game when it comes to doing something like this. And if it wasn't for the horizontal system, I don't think this is possible, because there's nowhere. I mean, there has to be it's a place for that water to go. And once that horizontal system, but you also want that biology, because you can always go fake. You can always put plastic down there, plastic tray. I see people putting plastic trays down there, and everything in this is real. Like everything is straight biology. So all the biology that was in that sand, silt, clay, organic matter is in here. So, and you can tell by the plant. I just harvested my first harvest, and I'm just smoking. It's kind of why my throat is a little hoarse right now, but it's a whole nother. It's a game changer. When you get that diversity of biology in the system that they can draw off of, it's a whole nother level. I'm telling you. I've been smoking my whole life. I've been to Amsterdam. I've done the whole 9 yards. Let me tell you that. And when I smoked, Marco gave me a bud of his Divine Pine, and I hit that, and I was like, okay, that's what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That lives up to its name. You know what I mean? It was divine. It was tiny. It was good. It was tasteful. It did the job. It did everything you wanted it to do. And that's hard to find in cannabis. It really is. When you find a medicine that.
I was going to say, it's funny that way back when I started this conference called the Science Between Regenerative Organic Cannabis Cultivation. And at the conference, I'd be getting smoked up by people who were growing in living soils. And then all of a sudden you take a hit of someone else's weed and you'd be like, oh, it burns your throat. You're just kind of like, oh, what the hell was that? You don't realize, unless you side by side, how different, biological bud is versus synthetic bud grown. I mean, I know there's people out there that that do salt grow and grow some amazing stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not, in my mind, it's not about THC. It's about the terpenes. It's about the entourage effect of all the minor cannabinoids, as well as the terpenes, the flavonoids, and everything else that makes that so special that you cannot duplicate without the biology. Biology is the key to the whole thing. And now I'm really,
you are 100%.
yeah,
you're 100% correct. That's exactly what it's about. It's all about the biology, but it's also about that water flow too. That water, there's something about that flow of water that I can't explain it. It's like, I was reading or listening to something about Rudolf Steiner and biodynamics and the whole.
You gotta listen to Gerald Pollack. The interviews that we
yes. Yeah.
He could explain to you what's going on here is that the movement, the aeration, the not stagnation is helping to really get that water living and more than living, energized, and being that it's energized, now it has a higher voltage on a molecular level, and it's millivolts. But that also contributes to cell health. And one of the messages that he's hypothesizing, he doesn't have hard evidence yet, but is that when you have a cell, whether it's a plant cell, whether it's a biological cell, it doesn't matter. It has a certain millivoltage. And if it's in the 600 or 60 to 80 range, it's super healthy. It's only when it gets into the lower range of 10 to 20 that you have a problematic cell. And there's this dude I'm going to be talking to soon about mitochondria. And I bet you $1 billion that there's a relationship between the millivolts of a healthy cell and the healthy mitochondria. But that's going to be a conversation I have off camera. But if it goes away, I think it will, then I'll definitely want to bring that gentleman on as well to talk about that. Because again, I think what you're seeing here is the understanding of ecosystems, understanding of the value of everything working together, and the end result is obvious, right? You take a hit of that weed, you're like, damn, there's something here, but I can't put my finger on it. So that's my job, is to try to figure out, why these things are working. And again, that's why I love having, friends almost. Gerald Pollack, rock star he is, and gentlemen like James White who will talk to me. Like, I don't have letters behind my name. Who the fuck am I, right? But these guys will have these great, intelligent conversations with me, and they're not afraid to theorize about, some of the things that come to me in my crazy mind or them in their crazy minds. And like, hey, well, that kind of makes sense. Common sense would say that was probably what was really going on. But until we take it to the next level, obviously, and get the scientific data behind it, we have to just live based on common sense, and not until, like I said, until we have the actual hard evidence. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant, but I'm just sitting here in awe, my friend. I just wonderful talk.
I'm used to your rants. I'm used to your rants, Leighton. I'm used to your rants. I've been listening to you rant for years.
Yeah, that time of COVID was pretty fucked up, wasn't it? And I remember, I was pretty angry. I was pretty angry during that period of time, and I wasn't afraid to friggin' let it rip. So there was a lot of rants that went on, back in the FCP days, that are a lot more mellow these days.
Yeah, I can understand completely, for sure.
So when you captured the reservoir, that particular minnow did better than the ones that you bought at the bait shop. Was that true?
No, the minnow I caught down at the reservoir is still alive. I only lost like 2 or 3 from the bait shop.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, the one down from the reservoir is hard. Yeah, he's a hard criminal. I mean, he made it from the reservoir up here. He's badass. He ain't going nowhere.
I was going to say that, that the ones that are the hardiest ones were the ones that were forced to survive. The ones in the bait shop, they got fed.
Oh,
So they weren't forced
yep.
to forage, which is good because that
Yeah,
too may
the one.
snails.
I'm losing you. I got
I
this
said,
bad storm coming.
it's all right. I said that the one that you got from the meadow or from the reservoir may actually also be eating the smaller snails because it was forced to forage on whatever it could find. So you may actually want to get a couple more of them if the snails really start to get crazy.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a good idea. I caught him in the wintertime too. He was one in like probably a million.
Nice.
I mean, yeah, he was a tough one. That's for sure. There's only one in the trap. He was the only one. He was big too.
Nice. So are you gonna do any further modifications, or are you just gonna let it spin up and do its thing?
Well, right now we're just gonna let it spin up and do its thing. I got ivy growing over in that corner, and then I've got some jasmine over in that corner. It's a pink jasmine, and I've got some ivy. I was losing you, so I had to stand by the door. But I might be the rain stopped, but still a little cloudy out. But anyway, yeah, you can go up. We got ivy growing up there, and some jasmine growing. And then once the cannabis gets up here, it becomes a jungle in here like it did last time. So I'm probably only going to pick and choose the top plants that are in here.
And then call the rest.
Yeah, we're going to go from there. And then, go ahead.
I said, and then you'll just call the rest and let it fill in with the understories.
Yep. We did a top off of IMO 3 and 4. So I use fish and rabbit. So I have fish shit and rabbit shit. So I have one rabbit in the house. And this is my little table over here. This is weed FPE from last year, February. And I got some lab here, and this is what's left over of the EM1. I had some bioag, it's a little left of that, the full power. It's humic acid.
Yeah.
Gotta have the fish brew. Flow.
Nice.
And then everything else is what we do. This is FPE of daikon beets, red radishes, greens. And we've got this wildflower FPE, comfrey, fermented plant extract, some comfrey. Yeah. Oh, I wanted to show you this. I want to know your opinion on this. This is WCA. So this is eggshells and vinegar.
Yep.
But I did not drain it. It's just been sitting here for 3 months. And when I opened it now, hold on. Of course, the damn thing won't open now. Damn, hold on a second.
Is it still bubbling?
You got to see this. Oh, it's not bubbling. It's doing some crazy shit. I don't know what the hell it's doing.
So it's fermenting. Yeah, it's fermenting.
It smells delicious.
That's awesome, dude.
It's just vinegar and eggshells. Oh, and also dropped a deer horn antler, a tiny little deer horn antler that I had laying here on the table, and I was like, let me drop that in there too.
Oh, what a great idea.
Yeah, it's been sitting here. So when I need some now, I just come in and take this little syringe and just stick it down in there, pull some out, put a little in there. I use a one of those little sprayers here.
Oh, I love those.
I say use a little. So this is artichoke tips with with molasses and lab, and this smells delicious too. I love the smell of it. Yeah, smells good. The nose knows, right?
Oh yeah, all the way. Wow, you've got quite a collection there, my friend. I'm very impressed. You've been listening to Marco.
Yeah. Oh, I got some. This is some IMO 2. That's
Nice.
OK Calix. This is from OK. This is from Kevin. This is from Oklahoma. This is from he's out in Oklahoma. OK Calix is in it. And I've had this jar for I don't know a year now. A little goes a long way of that stuff. I tell you that.
Oh,
I have learned that a little. You know, that's one thing you taught me, Leighton. That's one thing you taught me from the beginning. Is that I was a fucking moron. Like that's what I was. I was a moron. And you taught me I was a moron and started being a moron and I stopped being a moron and things turned around and you know once you realize that this stuff is on a molecular like a tiny molecular level that everything is tiny and not so big and you think small in small amounts, everything changed. So
it's amazing how that works, huh?
little is more, I'll tell you that. Especially this is FAA. This is a bucket of FAA from 23. So
Okay.
I don't mind opening this because it smells so good.
Isn't that amazing how nasty it smells in the beginning to how good it smells at the end?
Oh, I could just stick my face in it. It's just like,
Right?
it's like, and that's catfish. That's straight catfish guts. This bucket was full. This bucket was full of sugar and catfish from from the Chickahominy River. I'm right down the street from the Chickahominy River. And me and Buddy caught those back in 23. And I stuck them in that bucket. And they've been there ever since. And now I just take a little out, put it in this little jar here, and I got a full jar of FAA. I mean, that stuff lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll have that bucket probably for years, for the rest of my life.
You know, and that's
for what I used it for,
You know, that's the beauty of those preparations is they last forever, and they're really, you know, to be honest with you, they're biological food. They're in a form that the plant can uptake, but more importantly, they feed the biology as well. So it's kind of like we call them extra polymetric substances or tertiary or beyond metabolites that are able to move right into the cell and create more powerful tools for that cell to use, whether it's adjusting its acid or its pH or dry downs or heavy rain events. It can survive them because you fed it superfood. I'm a big fan of those preps.
Yeah.
Now you had a little mushroom in there somewhere.
Yeah. My little gnome, little golf gnome. He's in the rough. Mushrooms. I had some mushrooms over in these pots. Some little mushrooms popping up in the IMO.
Yeah, little inky cap.
Yeah, I had a bunch of them popping up over here, but they went away.
Yeah, they're like a early indicator of fungal growth. So it's very common that they'll just pop up like crazy and then they're gone. But what they've done is they've sporulated. So now you're going to have a higher spore bank in those plants, which is great when you move outside. If you do, you're giving them a chance to jumpstart.
Yeah. All that IMO, all the IMO 3 comes from. I'm using sawdust. So I have a buddy of mine who had a lumber mill, and he would do bandsaw, and he would hook up the hose to the tip of the bandsaw and blow all the sawdust out the back of his shop back into this big pile of oak. I mean, this huge oak trees. And so, yeah, the wood chips that I got were, the shavings were unbelievable. They were just already, yeah, they had just been underneath that oak tree for years. I just took a shovel in there and just started shoveling it in the back of my truck. He was like, take all you want. And I was like, no problem.
Damn.
So I took that and I was using wheat bran that I got from Marco. And wheat bran with the wood shavings. Yeah, then the using Chris Trump's recipe for the IMO 3. So I was doing the IMO 2, 3, and 4. The IMO 4, I was adding the rabbit shit. But I was it's basically IMO 4 and 5 because I had a little bit of soil in there too, because I was taking the soil from the woods here and basically sifting it, getting all the root stuff out of it, just being left with the brown, stuff that was around the oak trees. The more mycelium based I could find, the better. The wood, the soft wood, the sponge wood, crumble it up. If it had mushrooms growing on it, I'll crumble that up too and put it in the IMO 3 and then just cook all that using Chris Trump's method. And yeah, run it 2 or 3 times through the heat system. Yeah, getting it up to, we use a thermometer. So we got a long thermometer we use and get it up to that 120 mark. Trying to stay in that 115, 120 mark.
So
we try and do that for 4 days.
Have you ever thought of taking some of the IMO 3 and actually spraying it on your trees that are suffering from the black spot?
Yeah, that's actually. So that's one thing I wanted to ask you. So this IMO 2, if I just took a spoonful of this, all right, maybe a capful or whatever, put it in a bucket of water, 5-gallon bucket of water, and sloshed it around. I used a water hose basically and just blasted it, blasting it with air in the water hose, filling up the bucket of water, dumping that water out into another bucket, blasting it again. How much of that could I just basically strain that water then and put it in my sprayer? Would that be the same as basically bubbling it for 48 hours? Basically like an extract, but like a super aerated extract?
So this is a great question. And a lot of people get confused between the difference between a tea and an extract, right? A tea is something that you bubble, and the goal of bubbling is to give the bacteria the opportunity to explode, to plume. And then by pluming, they automatically trigger the prey-predator scenario, and all of a sudden the protozoas start dividing and dividing and dividing. And that's why it's so important to wait to hour 30 to harvest that tea, because if you harvest it at hour 24, you don't have the protozoas out. Protozoas just start pluming out from hour 24 to hour 30. So all you did was make a bacterial tea, not a true protozoan tea. And the reason you want the protozoans is to bring back the nutrient cycling system in the soil. So to answer your question,
correct.
If you're making a extract, one of the key reasons why you want to take your IMO 2 and convert it into IMO 3 is so that you've expanded it out. You've made it more prevalent. And then once you have the IMO 3, then you make your extraction from that, because now you're not losing all of your IMO 2 to that one application. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, if you want to run around and collect IMO 2s all day long, that's fine, or IMOs and then make IMO 2s, because at the end of the day, IMO 2 is just stabilized IMO 1. So if you have the opportunity to collect, tons and tons of IMO 2, but you don't have the time or resources to make the IMO 3, then yeah, just use the IMO 2. It's fine. And then you liquefy it, like you said, and then use that sprayer. I don't know if that sprayer is powerful enough to get up into the top of the canopy, but Have you ever heard of a Hudson sprayer? Backpack, or not a backpack, but the tube that you pump up, right? The ones you see.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
those are fantastic because you can pump the fuck out of it and dial the nozzle in to spray, and you can shoot it up probably, I don't know, 20, maybe 30 feet into the canopy. So if you did that with either an IMO 3 extract or an IMO 2 extract, that's definitely going to knock back that pest pressure. And I'll bet you dollars for donuts, if you do it early enough, you'll get more flowers, and obviously more flowers means more fruit. Like, I don't know if they've started to set flowers yet, your peach trees.
No. Well, yeah, they did flower. Yeah, they did flower, but then the flowers have gone away.
Okay,
Actually,
so
it's stopped raining right now. Let's go out here. We get a better signal out here anyway.
yeah, so if you had sprayed them right before flower, then you would have gotten more fruit for sure.
We just brought in wood chips for the garden here.
I can see that.
So yeah, we had the flowers.
Yep.
And I've sprayed this twice already with IMO extract, so to speak. So I've done that twice, and I've sprayed not with that Petra, but I have another hand pump like you're talking about.
Okay.
And I sprayed it with that. And then, but I get worms like crazy around here. So the worms are unbelievable. So I use BT for that. So I use the BT spray. So I usually am doing that 2 or 3 times a year as well to keep the worms at bay, or the caterpillars. I mean,
Yep.
caterpillar.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, the caterpillars are crazy around here. I'm surprised they're not on here now. It might be the reason. It might be the IMO. This is the first year I've done IMO spray, and I haven't seen any worms. But what usually happens, last year, what happened is every peach just got flooded with the sap. The sap just kept oozing out of the peach, and the peach only got about, yay big before it just started oozing out all this sap.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. And then all the leaves got this fungal shit on it, and it just went to hell.
Have you added any fish brew to the base of the tree?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Good.
We just got a big old pile of wood chips. We're getting ready to spread this out around the base, and yeah, we kept the cover growing on top all year. You can see the cover.
All right. Make sure that you don't choke the tree with the chips. Like, are you familiar with what we call the crown of the root ball? So that's where the base of the trunk hits the root ball, and the ball spreads out. It almost looks like a basketball.
Yep.
What you want to do is you want to scrape back everything to expose that root ball, sprinkle a little bit of compost, maybe an inch, and then maybe an inch of chips, and that's it. And then spread that out so that it becomes like a bowl around the tree itself. So
Gotcha.
the outside of the bowl is at the drip line of the plant. And if you do that, that tree is just going to explode, because that gives it the oxygen down into the root ball, where the bacteria can convert that.
So just spread this all around the edge, this far out. So basically just bring that.
Right. And build a little berm. So build like a little opposite of a radar dish. Right?
Gotcha. Yep.
So the water pools in there, and that root ball's only down just a little bit from the top. Because I've seen guys mulch too heavy, like volcano mulch, and they'll just choke the tree right out.
Yeah, I was gonna spread all this stuff. I'm hoping this is an empty bag here, but I'm hoping to spread all this out. All this wood chips all this is gonna get spread out all over everything. So I'm getting rid of. I don't want to mow this anymore.
Smart man.
Yeah. Just gonna
Build
spread
soil.
Yep. I threw a little bit in my bed here, but there's the reservoir down there. That's how far the reservoir is.
Wow, you got a nice spot there, my friend. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you. Yeah. And here comes the rain.
Oh, better run inside.
Yeah.
Well, that was perfect timing. And you know what? This is perfect because we can segue right into questions now. It's a little bit early. We got 6 questions. So, Ken, you want to go ahead and dive into them and see where they go? Oh, Ken probably took a break. Well, were there any other questions you had for me while we wait for Ken to hop on?
Yeah, actually there was. What do you think okay, so I have no filters in this pond.
Yep.
So the creek is the filter. All right.
Yep.
So as I increase the bio load in this pond by adding more food for the turtles are going to get bigger. Bio load is going to increase. I'm going to be pushing more shit through the system, basically. How much of that do you think is transferring up and being wicked up into the soil? Like, do you think the roots have to attach themselves up and come over the wall to that? Is the nutrient reaching up in and being leached into the sand silting clay? I guess is what I'm asking. It's like
So-
how, and do you think?
That's
Go
a
ahead.
great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know what I would do periodically, my friend? I would take you know what a fish filter siphon pump looks like?
Are you talking about a skimmer? Like a
No,
skimmer? Have you ever heard of a siphon? No,
So go to your fish store, your local pet store, and say I
Yeah.
want a gravel siphon, something I can clean my gravel out. And I would periodically do that, and then
sorry,
I take.
I'm losing you.
Oh, that's all right. You there now? Can you hear me, Josh?
I'm trying to reconnect. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. So it's
I can hear
basically
you.
a
You hear me?
Yep, we can hear you perfect. So basically, it's a gravel siphon, and
Okay.
so you siphon out the organic matter, and look at it to see, like, time it, see how long it takes for you to get a heavy amount of muck, because you periodically might want to siphon some of that stuff out. I mean, don't do the whole thing, don't get crazy, but just pick a couple areas and siphon it down. The reason why is what happens in nature.
Yeah. You're talking about a water change. Water change. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I know what
right.
you're talking about. The siphon. Yeah, we used to use them for water changes in a fish pond. I mean, a fish tank.
Yeah, exactly right. And by doing this, you're preventing what would cost. What happens naturally over time is that all of these rivers and streams that go into ponds, eventually those ponds fill up with that organic matter, and then and you start to lose diversity. You start to lose the dissolved oxygen levels, because as that organic matter builds up and up and up, it also feeds algae, and the algae then blooms during the day and dies at night, and that causes hypoxia. So by removing that organic matter periodically, and again, don't do the whole thing spotless, just do sections at a time, like once every 2 months or 3 months, you're going to keep that perpetually from prevent that from building up to a point where you start to lose your diversity. And that muck is amazing. It's rocket fuel. You pour that around the base of your trees and your vegetable garden. I don't think you need to reintroduce it to this system, because basically, as your roots slough off, all that stuff is going to eventually end up back in the pond. So do yourself a favor and just harvest that muck, that mullum, and put it outside on your other gardens and trees.
Right. Yeah. Makes total sense.
Yeah,
Treat it just like my fish tank, basically.
Totally do.
Yeah.
And definitely add water. We call it water brightening. So periodically add 5 gallons of water, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you can grab the reservoir water if you want. I mean, fuck it. Why use the town water when you've got a reservoir in the backyard? But that's
the cool thing about the DHU water, as I'm just pulling it out of the atmosphere in here. So as the DHU water is adding like 2 gallons a day almost. So that's what I noticed. It's about 2 gallons a day at the DHU is adding.
Yeah, but even still, add some of that reservoir water, because that's going to be mineral rich. Like wherever you saw that
Yeah.
water bubbling out, that's mineral water,
Yeah.
dude. That's fucking dynamite. And that's what the aquatic system needs. Because remember, fish have stomachs on the outside of themselves called the slime, that biofilm on the outside of them. That's a stomach, man. That's harvesting minerals out of the water column. So that's why it's important to make sure that you are adding some, brightening it with some fresh water from one of those little creeks that are running right into the reservoir.
Consider it done.
All right, brother. All right, Ken, thanks for hopping on. And let's fire it up, see where we go.
Yeah, sorry guys, I had too much coffee to drink so far. I'm a 4x4 raised bed that once had peppermint thriving, but over the past 2 years, it decreased in the middle of the growing season. Last year, it died or went dormant. Cause and treatments.
Interesting. So peppermint is like a spearmint, and mints tend to be like super aggressive and hard to knock back. So I would make sure that you don't have some kind of pest pressure personally in that soil. It could be like a mouse or something small that just ate all the roots. And if it ate the roots, it would prevent it from coming back, which it typically would do. So that's surprising. So I would definitely do a little bit of sleuthing, dig up the soil, maybe send it off for microscopy or testing. But mints are really difficult. They're very prolific plants. They're difficult to kill. So something bad must be going on.
Okay. Peter Cactus, are the Acurus functional plants?
I'm not familiar with the Acurus. Which ones are those?
I'm thinking it's obviously something in the grow bed because he was showing the grow bed at the time. So it's something that's growing. So are all those real plants, or you got some plastic plants in there?
No, those are all living.
Yeah, you're probably talking about that. Maybe talking about that.
Maybe.
Because I've searched the internet for this, and I really can't find much other than some type of weed. I forget what it's a. It wasn't a. What did you just say it was, Ken?
Acurus.
What was the question? Acurus. Yeah, it wasn't that. I don't know what that is. But everything in here is 100% real. 100% real. I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about either. But sorry.
He says sweet flag equals Acurus.
So sweet flag must be another version of it. Acurus must be the name. I'm sorry. I don't know much about sweet flag, Peter. So maybe you can inform us. What is it known to do? Is it a dynamic accumulator? Is it a banker plant or trap plant? Maybe you can educate us. Is the tall grass-like plant?
Okay.
Tall grass. Oh, yeah, it could be this. This is pond grass. This came from down the reservoir. It's just you find it on the edges of the reservoir everywhere.
There you go. Again, part of the ecosystem. I mean, that was the goal, was to bring the reservoir inside, and you did it. And the seed bank obviously is loving your environment and is doing very well and taking off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is starting to take off, and things are starting to grow that I had no idea were even in here. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, especially since I got the flip. So this is actually the first real flip. I've got 16 hours of light now. I'm up to 80 degrees. The flies are out. Whereas before I was at 74 degrees and flower, and never really got going good until right now, really. Right now, y'all are seeing the beginnings of it. So I'm excited to what it's going to be in the next, year. So I'll be through multiple runs by then, and the shit'll be everywhere probably. I'm gonna have ivy growing all over. You won't see the rock. Hopefully, the jasmine will hopefully grow all over the rock.
Cool.
Yeah,
Now,
we'll have a bunch of different things.
Peter Cactus wanted to know what is the yield in that living soil grow, but obviously this is your first run, so you don't have those numbers yet.
Well, he has one. He did one. So
Okay.
how many pounds there?
Yeah, I did one, and everything. Yeah, everything's in cure, right? Everything's drying right now. We're still drying. I haven't even trimmed and put in jars or bags yet, so she's still hanging up in the dry room right now. Everything's we're about 12, 13 days.
Mm-hmm.
We had 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About 10.
Wow.
10 plants.
That must have been a jungle in there.
Yeah, it was a jungle. Yeah. It looked pretty cool too with the big buds. I didn't strap in. I don't know. No net. Everybody was like, putting that up. No nets, no nothing. The buds were just dangling over the creek. That's what I wanted the cannabis plants to be, my redwoods, like dangling over the creek, and that was kind of my vision the whole time, was having the cannabis as my giant redwoods hovering over the creek.
And you're probably going to be showing all this on your YouTube channel and your Instagram as well. So guys, make sure that you're following Yellow Skunk Farms on both YouTube and Instagram, because you're going to get, updates on a regular basis from Josh.
Nice.
Now, the other question is, how many pumps in this monstrosity?
One pump, one God.
One pump.
Yep.
One pump. Yep. That's it.
Yep. And that's the way it should be, because if that pump fails, it's not going to overflow. Everything's just going to drain back into the reservoir and stay there.
I built the whole thing. Yeah, I built the whole thing to where it's big enough square foot wise to hold all the water in the whole thing. So there's no chance. Even if all the water in the pond, which is about 200 gallons, 220 gallons, not including what's in the creek. So there's probably 250, 260 gallons of water, which can easily fit in a 12-foot by 9-foot frame. So if all that water were to get to the bottom, it would just fill up the bottom reservoir, and that would be it.
And then you wouldn't have to worry about a shop vac.
Wouldn't flood out anything. No, don't have to worry about that.
I don't know where you learned that, Josh, but that was one of the biggest failures in the aquaculture industry, was when they added 2 pumps. If you had 1 pump, you never had a problem, because the power went out, all the water drained back into the main tank, and it was done. If you had 2 pumps and 1 pump failed, then something's getting drained out, and that's when you lose your fish. So Great job, Josh.
Yep.
Okay, now the next question.
Thank you.
Does a liner for the water feature separate the soil?
I think he's asking if there's a liner underneath the creek.
No, the liner is the very bottom. So basically, just picture the liner as your bedrock. That's the bottom, and then everything fills up from there. So Josh, the soil is separated by the sand, silt, and clay.
Did you put a clay liner underneath the creek itself, or is that just the soil?
It's solid clay, red clay too, packed, hard packed. So in between, you can go back on my Instagram. You'll see I put updates every so often down on the Instagram. So you'll see. I mean, you can see on my Instagram through updates how I built it. Like from the time I built the box all the way till you see it now is on my Instagram. So it's basically, I built the channel all the way up. So you have to have solid foundation. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
No, you're good.
Hello? Okay.
We can hear you.
have to have solid foundation for this moss to set on. So the moss needs a foundation. So that's why you just can't set moss on top of soil, because soil breaks, it doesn't break up, it breaks down. So it shrinks. So the moss goes with it, and then it just loses its hold and doesn't get moisture, and it just needs a solid foundation to sit on. So having that rock found that stable, it's basically a solid foundation from the bottom of the bed all the way up. So if I had just put rocks on top of soil, the rocks don't have a solid foundation. They would, shrink with the soil. So you would never be able to have a creek here if you didn't have the walls of the creek on a solid foundation. So the walls of the creek have to go all the way to bedrock and then build up from there. So the walls go all the way down each wall, and then we fill the inside of the creek with clay, hard red clay, all the way up to where we want the bottom of the creek to go. We pack that clay in layers, basically. So as I dump it in, I would pack it down as best I could, dump another layer in, pack it in, dump another layer in, pack it in, till I got to the point where I wanted it to be. And then I used masonry mix, and I took masonry mix and I built my channel on top of that red hard clay inside the creek walls. And then from there, it was just about forming the creek and then adding pond shield. So pond shield is what lines the masonry mix, or the masonry block, basically, that makes it fish safe. So you see the shine on the rock. The shine from the rock is pond shield. It's just a epoxy, a two-part epoxy. And you use it for making ponds, and I decided to use it to also seal the creek. So once I sealed the creek, then it was all about the sand, silt, clay, organic matter, and figuring out how to get it to wick. But that's how the creek is made. The creek is basically built from the ground up. And if it ever did, the pump cut off, all this extra water is going to flow down into the pond. But what happens is a lot of it stays in the creek, because a lot of it's trapped in the sand, silt, clay, and in the rock. So a lot of it stays here, and then it'll just trickle in, as it, once all the initial flood comes in, then it just slowly trickles in. But I have where the tubes come in is up there. So even if all the water comes in here, it still doesn't come up over that little crack there, that where the hoses come in. And even if it did somehow fill up with water, it would just run down into this hole here and run right into the box. So there's no chance of it getting out into the floor. So everything is self-contained right in this sandbox, so to speak. And then the rock wall is inside the box. And I just built the rock wall up, so the rocks are the wall to hold everything in. And the rocks, you can see at an angle, so they go on an angle, and then slowly slant all the way up till you get to the rock wall, or to the mountaintop where the water comes down. So everything here, this was a big trick too. So if you're ever going to build one of these, this is the biggest thing, is getting that slant right. You need that slope to come to this corner. So you need that water, and it has to be a slight, so it can't be massive, because I need water up there too. So I don't want all my water rushing down here. I want my water that's in the soil to slowly seep down and work it and find its way down here. So by just a slight slope coming down, this gives me that time the water needs to suck up and go up in where it needs to go. But the excess ends up down here in the bottom and slowly works its way over here to the hole, where if it ever did fill up, I could just suck it out with a shot vac. And it's clean water, because it's been through all the sand, silt, and clay, and organic matter. It's gone through the clay layer. It's gone through all those layers and ended up down in here. So it ends up being clean. So when I sucked water out of there, it was crystal clean. I mean, like, because I've had to do it multiple times at the beginning, you know. So this was filling up with water, but it was crystal clear water. After going through all that, it was coming through clean. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, hell yeah, it's coming through clean. That way I could just take it and pump it right back into the damn pond. So I could just take a pump and set the pump down here and have it click on as it fills up. So if this was filling up, I would just click the pump on. Once it got to a certain valve, you know, it clicked the pump on and pump water right back, that fresh, clean water back into the pond. But turns out I didn't need to do that. Turns out that the plants, once they get to a certain height and get a root mass on them, they're wicking that water. I don't see, like, this is the first time I've seen water down in that hole since the last set of plants were this tall. Because once these plants get up to about here and that root mass gets down into here and starts sucking up all that water, this hole will dry up immediately. Like that will just dry right up and I won't see any more water down there. And that's how I know that the plant roots are really starting to go and really starting to take a hold. And I have a feeling that if you were to dig into here, the roots are just attached to the rock. I mean, this is, you know, just granite rock full of mineral. You know, it's full of, I mean, this whole rock wall is just nothing but mineral. So including the river rock that I use for making the creek. So it's different types of rock, all different types of agates in the creek. The water's flowing through in certain spots a little bit faster. So you can see the water flow here is a little bit quicker than it is right back here. So these are my holding spots for, you can see the algae is doing something different. Like it's doing a totally different thing than what it is over here in the middle where the flow is. So over here, it has a space to kind of congregate and build up. But where the water's flowing, it can't do that. So you can see that the water is flowing downhill right through there, and then it hits this rock here in the middle and slows up, spins around that rock, slows up, spins back around, spins around this rock here, and then speeds back up down the hill through here, back on its way back to the fish pond. So there are different areas where it speeds up, slows down, speeds up, slows down, and speeds back up again. So that gives me different pockets of life, so to speak. And you can tell too. You can really tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Microclimates.
Yes,
Yep.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's go on to the next question. They're both the next two are about the mortar. What type of mortar did you use? Sorry if you've already answered that.
It's a S type, I think. Type S mortar. Type S.
Standard.
I believe is what it was. Standard. Yep. Standard mortar mix. Yep.
And then he used the pond liner.
You can pick it up at any hardware. $5 a bag.
Yeah, and then you use the pond liner to protect the mortar from leaching the calcium into the water supply. So genius, absolutely perfect.
And then the other part of it is
the pond shield does
bentonite clay at all.
He used a similar clay in his creek, but the waterproofing was the important thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, the
Josh?
waterproofing was the important thing. Yeah, the clay around here, I don't know the particular name of it. It's just a really dark red, but you have to go, it's layered. Like I have a really loamy clay, like it's really sandy and like a gold almost. And then it goes into a really hard packed red clay after that gold clay. So I set this up the exact same way. So I did the red clay at the bottom on top, then I did the gold, then I did the sand silt and clay layer, then I did the soil, Then I did another layer of sand, silt, and clay. Then I did mulch. So this is layers all the way through. So hopefully I did it the right way with the clay on top. I know that the sand, silt, and clay layer on top of the soil is eventually going to leach down, you know, and get broken down by biology and leach down into the soil. But hopefully that's enough sand, silt, and clay for my lifetime, you know, hopefully I'll never have to amend this bed. That's what I'm shooting for. I don't want to have to keep amending like amending things, because I'm hoping that the biology is going to start mining that sand, silt, clay, and organic matter that's already been put in. They were already mining it from the get-go. I just took them from one spot and put them in another. So hopefully they just pick right back up, and hopefully I don't fuck it up with adding a bunch of different shit to it. You know, I'm just going to let it slide, I'm going to be a steward, basically, and just not try and overload the system with a bunch of different things like, you know, ferments. And the only thing I've really done is foliar spray. And JMS. I did a big JMS dose right after I chopped. So I chopped my first run. I amended with IMO 4 and 5. I then topped with Timothy hay that I used for my rabbit. And then I dosed everything with JMS. And then I plant. And that's it.
Love it.
And we're gonna see what happens.
I tend to think we're going to see some good things.
And foliar spray. Yeah, foliar spray, and I did foliar spray FAA. So I did spray, but when I mean foliar spray, I mean I put a pin drop in that thing, a pin drop of that FAA, and then I blasted water. I have this little pump here. It's a little 25-gallon tank. And I have a pump in it. It's a circulating pump. I just have it unplugged because it's loud as shit. But there's a circulating pump in here, and I just hook it up to a battery, and it fills up. And then I have a wand here. And you can just take this wand and blast it into there with that FAA. Fill that up, just a drop, and then I foliar spray with that, and that's it. And sometimes I come in here, and if I want to, I can this hose. I'll just add an extension to it, so I can take it anywhere I want. So this is my rainwater. This is my morning dew. Sometimes, so sometimes I'll come in and just give everything a morning dew, just make everything damp, you know, like it would in the morning. And that's it. That's all I have to do. Just keeping that top layer kind of damp, you know, kind of moist.
So let's grab another question here, guys. Did you draw up a plan, or did the pond evolve organically? I.e., are you as you went doing along building it?
I built a model. This is also on my Instagram. I built a small table model on my kitchen table. The original plan was to use terracotta clay for the creek system. And the reason I was going to use terracotta clay is because I had this lame brain idea that I was going to mold these pieces and then take them to a kiln and get them baked to like 1200 degrees to where they turn into terracotta clay. And I'd watched these shows where, you know, the Chinese used to use terracotta clay pots, and they would release water perfectly. You know, you would bury the pot in the ground and fill it with water, plant your plant next to it, and you could go off for weeks, you know, and the water would slowly seep out that terracotta clay, and the roots would grow to the clay and attach themselves to that terracotta clay, and just that's where they would get their water source. And all they'd have to do is fill up the terracotta clay jug, and that would water their plants. Well, that's what I was going to do, But till I realized that terracotta clay on this scale, I'd have been a dead man. I mean, it would have just killed me trying to work with that stuff. After I built the model out of it, just doing the small scale model on my kitchen table, I was like, there's no fucking way that I'm going to build and mold this clay, all of this, and then section it off to where I can get it somewhere and put it in a kiln. It would just been too much. So that idea went out the wall, out the window. And that's when I decided to go concrete and do the mortar mix. And I was going to do drilling holes. I was going to drill holes to release some water. This was before I realized how much that sand, silt, clay, organic matter was going to wick water. Once I realized how much that shit wicked, it was like a total game changer, a total I did a 180 turnaround on the whole design. And because I was going to do I was going to do a small, another little temporary, what am I trying to say? A little pond, little holding pond here that it flowed down and into another pond, which was going to hold grass and stuff for my filtration. And then it was going to come out of that pond and come into the big pond. And I realized that was going to take up too much space. So I had to come up with another plan. And that is when I came up with the pond shield on the whole thing. Instead of just the pond, do the pond shield on the whole thing. And then figure out how to wick the water up over the wall. Because by this time, I'd already seen how the wicking action was taking place. So the whole plan changed kind of mid-term, basically. I was already on plan D and going into plan E, when I figured out the sand, silt, and clay. It took me 7 times. I took a shot back and sucked this shit out 7 times before I figured it out.
Well,
And my wife, I went inside one time. Yeah.
I was going to say you saved a lot of people a lot of time by laying this out, because this could be actually done in a smaller scale. It doesn't have to be this big, but damn, like I said, I wish I had a spare room I could build one of them. And the time, of course, to do it. But
yep,
it's 12 foot. It's 12 foot long and 9 foot wide. So it's 12 foot long, 9 foot wide. So it's really not. I mean, it's not too big. I mean, compared to a 4x4 here, I mean, it's huge, but it's only got 20 yards of soil. I used Big Worm organic soil. It's recommended by Marco. He's a local guy here. He makes his own soil. Doesn't use perlite. That was a big thing for me. Doesn't use perlite. He uses rice hulls, bunch of vermiculite, stuff like that. But it was amended soil from the get-go. But that's the only soil I'm ever going to have. So everything else is just, I added my IMO 3 and 4 to his soil and went from there. So basically, I added my biology to his soil. But from here on out, it'll just be strictly my stuff, my IMO 4 and 5 going into the top, topping it off. That with my compost, along with the compost that we're doing. And that's it.
Well, it's kind of leads us into our next question, actually, is I'm fixing to fill a 4x4 by 8 grassroots living soil bed with purchased soil. Should I buy bulk compost or bulk mixed soil and compost? I don't have enough at home to fill so many beds.
Well, one of the lessons I've learned about using any type of bulk soil or bulk compost is that if you're not going to do horizontal soil system, at least blend in some sand, some clay, and some silt if you can get it. because that's going to make the soil last a lot longer. But if it's just pure organic matter, you're going to lose like 6 inches a season, and then you're going to have to add six inches more the following season. So if you add some of those structural components, it'll last longer, and it'll be way more biologically friendly, especially if you're going to go with like fish brews and IMOs and all these other, biological approaches. If you don't have the sand, silt, and clay, you're never going to hit genetic potential.
Mm-hmm. You have to have the building blocks, make them available, or else you're SOL, because your biology is going to eat everything that's there. Like Leighton said, you're just going to have to keep adding and adding and adding, but setting it up right in the first place, like Josh has done, it's going to be an amazing, amazing thing. So
they gotta have a home. I was gonna say they gotta have a home. Everything needs a home. So this is my version of the home for all the biology. So I realized that this wasn't gonna cut it for me. I know a lot of people can make this work, and I made it work for a while. But to do what I wanted to do and actually incorporate the true biology and true diversity, and what Leighton was talking about with the aquatic biology and the terrestrial biology, how can we mix both and have both, in one system indoors that I can run and monitor and actually look at and watch things grow and prosper, and even the bad. Like I love seeing the bad things too, like the little spider mite damage I saw. It's not a big deal to me. I'm not going to throw, I'm not throwing away everything because I got spider mites, There's this easy solution to spider mites. And there's pretty much, since I've gotten into natural farming and knowing people with real knowledge of this, there's nothing you can't do anymore. I mean, literally, you can set up pretty much anything you want to do. There's a cure for it. I mean, it's almost always, like you said, Ken, it's biology. The cure is usually the biology that it needs to be present in order for this thing to thrive. If I didn't have it, you'd see problems. One particular thing would just take over. I have to have everything in order for it to thrive, because if you don't have everything, then, like you said, the bad guys are going to take over. They're the first ones that's going to destroy your neighborhood, so to speak. So they got to be put in check. And once the good guys are introduced, and we know who the good guys are now, so we can actually purchase good guys and put them in with the bad, and on from there. You really don't have to do a whole lot, but monitor and make sure. Like I'm in here every day for hours a day, so if something changes, I'm going to see it. I'm going to be immediately on top of it. Like that's how I knew that I needed to purchase some good beneficial mites to tackle the spider mite problem, because if I had gone 3 or 4 days without seeing it, who knows what could have happened. I mean, I could have come back and had spider mites all over everything. So once you catch it quick, there's an easy solution, but once they take over, it's a battle. I know, because I've had that's prevalent around here. My area, spider mites. I mean, they're everywhere. It's just like, if you don't have a healthy plant, you're going to have spider mites. It's just the way it is. It's kind of like Japanese beetles out here on my rose bush.
Yeah. You can
but it's guaranteed.
Created that complete ecosystem where, like Leighton was talking earlier about the predator prey, when you have that balanced, then you don't have to worry about that stuff, because the prey and the predator is going to balance itself out. You're not going to have to worry about spider mites.
No, and actually having a few of them is a good sign. It means you've got a balanced system.
Yep.
So, well, listen, Joshua, I really appreciate you, taking the time to really go through this and, give us the experience that you gave us today, because this is quite an accomplishment, and really appreciate your 2 hours of time dedicated to really getting into the weeds on the system, how you did it. And again, I think you're going to inspire a lot of people to whether they do it on this scale or something smaller, that, just how beautiful this could be as part of their home, or a garden room with escape the daily pressures. But so thank you very much for your time, and Ken,
I
as
think it
always,
can definitely be done on a lot. It can be done on a smaller scale.
yeah, agreed.
Sorry, lost you.
No worries. You could do a sunroom and have something like this just as a 2-foot border all the way around your sunroom. You know, that it's bring nature into your life. But guys, Josh, we're at the 2 hours. We're going to be cutting it off here right away. Guys, I've got Kelpie Wilson on tomorrow talking about biochar, Conversations in Ken's Cafe. You're going to want to check that out. But other than that, Josh, so much appreciate what you've shown here. Guys, make sure you go and sign up for his YouTube and his Instagram so that you guys can get the regular updates as well.
And Ken, thank you as always for all your behind the scenes work on this. I really appreciate it. Josh, dude, you're a man. You're the fucking man. It's beautiful work, dude.
Yep.
I appreciate you, Leighton. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah, stick around, Josh.
I don't know how to flip my camera
We'll be right
back.
back.